cybersecurity professional with extensive experience in both government and industry, I have consistently observed the troubling use of personal communication methods by government officials for official business. This article approaches the issue strictly from a cybersecurity perspective, deliberately avoiding partisan politics or blame toward any particular administration. While recent headlines have spotlighted the Trump administration's use of the Signal messaging app, it is essential to recognize this as a continuation of a decades-long pattern spanning multiple presidencies. My goal here is not criticism, but rather to clearly illustrate a systemic cybersecurity vulnerability that affects national security. Prefer listening on the go? This article is also a new podcast episode. Head over to podcast.baremetalcyber.com to check it out, or visit jason-edwards.me for even more multimedia content. Repeated breaches, from private emails during the Bush administration to Hillary Clinton's email server, and from Obama-era social engineering attacks to recent encrypted messaging app incidents, highlight chronic weaknesses in how sensitive government information is handled. By analyzing specific incidents across several administrations, I will pinpoint the recurring cybersecurity challenges and their root causes. More importantly, I will offer practical, expert-driven recommendations aimed at strengthening government communication practices, protecting sensitive information, and preventing these persistent vulnerabilities from recurring. Ultimately, the objective is to foster a lasting culture of cybersecurity awareness and compliance at all levels of government, regardless of politics or administration. Bush administration. The use of private communication methods by government officials for conducting official business first attracted widespread attention during the administration of President George Walker Bush. Prominent White House figures such as Senior Advisor Karl Rove and Chief of Staff Andrew Card routinely utilized private email accounts hosted by the Republican National Committee for Official Communications. From a cybersecurity perspective, these privately managed servers lacked the stringent security protocols, encryption standards, and regular monitoring mandated by federal cybersecurity guidelines. The practice quickly created vulnerabilities that increased the risks of espionage, hacking, and unauthorized disclosure of sensitive government information. The cybersecurity implications of this approach became even more evident when it was revealed that approximately 22 million emails sent between 2003 and 2005 had gone missing, initially feared permanently lost. The absence of robust archival and backup procedures highlighted severe deficiencies in cybersecurity governance and compliance with the Presidential Records Act. The loss represented not just a significant gap in the historical record, but also underscored the profound vulnerability of government information when officials rely on private systems. Although the emails were later recovered through extensive technical efforts, the incident spotlighted significant weaknesses in governmental cybersecurity strategy, setting an alarming precedent for future administrations. Critically, the Bush administration's reliance on private communication channels reflected broader systemic issues beyond mere convenience or oversight. This practice signaled a deeper cultural problem: insufficient awareness or prioritization of cybersecurity threats at senior government levels. Officials appeared unaware of or indifferent to the risks associated with using unsecured communication platforms, failing to appreciate the potential consequences for national security and governmental integrity. As a cybersecurity professional, I view this as the foundational moment when personal communication methods became normalized for official use, inadvertently shaping a troubling legacy that subsequent administrations would also struggle to correct. Obama administration. Despite the visibility of issues in the previous administration, the use of private and non-standard communication channels for official business continued during President Barack Obama's tenure, demonstrating a persistent cybersecurity vulnerability across multiple administrations. The most widely publicized example was Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's decision to use a private email server exclusively for official communications rather than government-secured channels. From a cybersecurity perspective, this approach posed substantial risks, as her server lacked the stringent protections typical of government-managed systems, such as advanced encryption, rigorous access controls, and continuous threat monitoring. Ultimately, the Federal Bureau of Investigation's investigation found over 100 classified emails had been sent or received, highlighting the tangible risks of such cybersecurity lapses. Another serious cybersecurity incident under Obama's administration involved Central Intelligence Agency Director John Brennan, whose personal America Online email account was compromised by teenage hackers through basic social engineering. This breach was particularly concerning because sensitive personal documents, including Brennan's detailed Security Form 86 clearance application and internal agency communications, were publicly leaked, creating national security vulnerabilities. The incident vividly demonstrated that even seemingly innocuous personal accounts can become prime targets for adversaries aiming to exploit less secure personal devices and communication channels. The breach underscored a significant gap in cybersecurity awareness among senior government officials who might underestimate the vulnerabilities inherent in personal email systems. A further complication arose from Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Lisa Jackson's use of a secondary email account registered under the alias Richard Windsor for official correspondence. From a cybersecurity and legal compliance perspective, using aliases creates substantial complications for electronic discovery, transparency, and records retention. Official requests made under the Freedom of Information Act and similar legal processes rely heavily on searching for relevant records by known government-issued email addresses or actual names. The use of aliases or pseudonyms often prevents these records from being identified and disclosed, as automated searches or investigative inquiries typically do not account for undisclosed or unknown aliases, inadvertently shielding critical information from oversight. Additionally, early in his tenure, Secretary of Defense Ashton Carter briefly used a personal email account for official Pentagon business, halting the practice only after intervention from White House officials. Although the incident involving Carter was quickly resolved, it further exemplified the broader cultural issue of convenience outweighing security considerations at high government levels. Each of these cases, from Clinton's private server to Brennan's America Online breach, Jackson's alias email, and Carter's temporary personal account, demonstrated not isolated incidents, but a systemic failure to properly internalize critical cybersecurity practices. As these examples illustrate, repeated reliance on personal and non-standard communications underscores the urgent need for comprehensive cybersecurity reforms at the highest levels of government. Trump administration. The cybersecurity vulnerabilities associated with the use of private communication methods continued to intensify during President Donald Trump's first term. Senior White House officials, including Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, frequently used personal email accounts for official communications, echoing the cybersecurity pitfalls observed in prior administrations. From a cybersecurity viewpoint, such practices not only bypassed government-secured email systems, but also increased exposure to cyber threats such as phishing attacks, unauthorized access, and foreign espionage. Although these communications reportedly did not include classified material, they still represented significant deviations from cybersecurity best practices and posed ongoing risks to national security. Additionally, key Trump administration figures like Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, and Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue used personal emails to interact with lobbyists, industry groups, and internal staff. Such practices, often driven by convenience, inadvertently exposed sensitive governmental conversations to cybersecurity threats by occurring outside of monitored and secured communication environment. From a technical standpoint, private email servers frequently lack advanced security features such as end-to-end encryption, threat detection tools, and robust access control mechanisms. As a result, these communications could be readily intercepted or compromised, significantly increasing the likelihood of espionage, information leaks, and targeted cyber attack. Further complicating this cybersecurity picture, White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows reportedly used private messaging apps and personal devices during critical events surrounding the January 6th Capitol incident. Additionally, former Federal Bureau of Investigation Director James Comey admitted to occasionally using a personal Gmail account for Bureau-related correspondence, illustrating that the cybersecurity vulnerabilities spanned across multiple government agencies and leadership levels. This continued reliance on personal devices and accounts reinforced a problematic culture where cybersecurity policies were inconsistently applied, inadequately enforced, or overlooked entirely. Such practices directly undermined established government cybersecurity frameworks, placing sensitive communications at heightened risk of compromise. Collectively, these examples from President Trump's first term underscored the deep-seated nature of the problem. Instead of improving based on lessons from previous administrations, the cybersecurity risks appeared to worsen, with repeated incidents highlighting a persistent gap in cybersecurity culture and compliance. As a cybersecurity professional, I view this intensification as evidence of insufficient cybersecurity awareness and inadequate training among senior officials, combined with weak regulatory oversight and enforcement. Ultimately, the ongoing reliance on private communication channels during this period further demonstrated the critical need for consistent cybersecurity policies, rigorous training, and stronger accountability mechanisms to safeguard government communications effectively. Biden administration. The cybersecurity problems associated with personal communication channels persisted during President Joe Biden's administration, underscoring the systemic nature of this ongoing issue. Even before his presidency, Biden had historically used email aliases such as Robert L. Peters, Robin Ware, and J.R.B. Ware during his vice presidency for official communication, complicating cybersecurity practices and federal record-keeping. While aliases may have provided perceived privacy or convenience, from a cybersecurity perspective, they introduced unnecessary complexity into record searches and data recovery efforts. Consequently, these email aliases could have easily hindered transparency, accountability, and compliance with Freedom of Information Act requests, leaving critical government communications hidden or overlooked. Additionally, Biden's national security advisor, Mike Waltz, was reported to have used personal Gmail and the Signal messaging app for conducting official government business, raising familiar cybersecurity concerns. Although platforms like Signal provide strong encryption, the use of personal devices and third-party applications inherently bypasses standard governmental cybersecurity controls, audits, and oversight mechanisms. The utilization of these unofficial channels created significant vulnerabilities, such as exposure to targeted cyber espionage or data leakage if a personal account or device were compromised. This practice once again reflected a misunderstanding or disregard for established cybersecurity protocols designed explicitly to safeguard sensitive government information. The Biden administration's guidance encouraging officials to use encrypted ephemeral messaging apps such as Signal further complicated the cybersecurity landscape. While encrypted messaging tools can enhance confidentiality, their ephemeral nature creates profound challenges for records retention, oversight, and historical accountability. Government communications that vanish after viewing can prevent effective auditing and forensic investigations, undermining essential cybersecurity controls and legal compliance. From my professional viewpoint, this approach to communication inadvertently fostered an environment that prioritized short-term convenience over the long-term security and integrity of sensitive information. Finally, an incident during Biden's administration highlighted broader cybersecurity weaknesses when sensitive government documents, including detailed White House floor plans, were mistakenly shared with thousands of federal employees via unsecured channels. This event demonstrated the persistent inadequacies in information handling procedures and cybersecurity oversight within the government. It emphasized that the issue was not limited to isolated cases of personal email or messaging app misuse, but rather a deeper systemic failure to instill rigorous cybersecurity awareness, training, and enforcement across government operations. Collectively, these Biden-era incidents showed a continued inability to fully internalize cybersecurity best practices, perpetuating vulnerabilities across successive administrations. Current Trump administration. The ongoing cybersecurity vulnerabilities tied to personal communications have recently reached new visibility during President Donald Trump's second term, particularly following revelations involving the Signal messaging app. High-ranking officials, including Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, were discovered using Signal to discuss sensitive national security matters. From a cybersecurity expert's viewpoint, Reliance on a consumer-oriented messaging platform, even one offering robust encryption, poses inherent risks as it bypasses established governmental safeguards, auditing capabilities, and compliance monitoring. The security and accountability implications of these practices became apparent when a journalist was inadvertently included in one of these high-level chats, exposing sensitive operational details publicly. This recent incident dramatically highlights the cybersecurity dangers of utilizing ephemeral encrypted messaging apps for official government communications. While the encryption capabilities of apps like Signal can indeed protect against interception during transmission, the decentralized ephemeral nature of such platforms means they inherently complicate essential cybersecurity oversight and forensic analysis. Furthermore, the inadvertent addition of unauthorized individuals, as in the recent case involving the journalist, underscores vulnerabilities tied to human error or misunderstanding of how these apps manage access and participant control. Such mistakes significantly amplify the risk of leaks, espionage, and foreign adversaries potentially gaining insights into sensitive government operations. Beyond immediate operational risks, these recent practices also create substantial issues regarding compliance with federal records management requirements and transparency laws such as the Presidential Records Act. Official communications conducted through private messaging apps are notoriously difficult to archive, audit, and retrieve, complicating governmental accountability and legal oversight. In the event of an investigation or congressional inquiry, messages exchanged over non-official channels are often unrecoverable or incomplete, obstructing effective oversight and undermining public trust. This situation illustrates a profound and ongoing disconnect between convenience-based communication choices and the essential cybersecurity responsibilities required to safeguard national security information. Overall, this latest incident within President Trump's current administration underscores the enduring, systemic nature of the personal communications issue. Despite repeated lessons from past administrations and clear cybersecurity guidelines, officials continue to prioritize convenience and expediency over robust cybersecurity and compliance measures. From my professional cybersecurity perspective, this ongoing practice signals the urgent need for transformative, consistent changes in policy, training, and culture within the highest levels of government. Without meaningful intervention, this persistent reliance on insecure communication channels will inevitably expose critical national security information to unnecessary cybersecurity risks and compromise governmental transparency. Underlying causes: the consistent misuse of personal communication methods by government officials across multiple administrations can be traced primarily to fundamental human factors, starting with convenience and ease of use. Officials frequently prefer personal accounts or apps because these are familiar, accessible, and straightforward, compared to sometimes cumbersome government platforms that have enhanced security features but reduced usability. This convenience-driven decision-making unintentionally prioritizes short-term efficiency over long-term cybersecurity. Unfortunately, such choices significantly increase the government's exposure to cyber threats and data leakage, compromising sensitive national security information. Another critical factor contributing to this ongoing cybersecurity vulnerability is the weak enforcement and inconsistent accountability surrounding compliance with federal records management regulations. While federal guidelines explicitly mandate secure and traceable communication channels for official business, violations have historically received minimal enforcement or consequence, sending mixed signals about their importance. Without rigorous enforcement or clear, substantial penalties for misuse, officials feel little incentive to adhere strictly to secure communication standards. This lack of accountability perpetuates the cycle of noncompliance, leading to a continual disregard for essential cybersecurity best practices. Technical limitations within government information technology infrastructure also significantly contribute to the problem. Government-provided communication platforms often lack the user-friendliness and flexibility found in consumer apps, leading officials to seek more convenient personal alternatives. From my cybersecurity perspective, if the secure tools provided by government agencies are overly complex, outdated, or difficult to use, officials will naturally bypass official platforms, unintentionally weakening the cybersecurity posture of their communications. Consequently, improving usability and accessibility within government communication systems becomes a critical cybersecurity objective. Additionally, there remains a widespread misunderstanding or overconfidence regarding the security offered by personal encrypted messaging platforms such as Signal, WhatsApp, and Telegram. While encryption does indeed provide secure message transmission, this alone is insufficient for full cybersecurity and compliance. Officials often underestimate the inherent risks of ephemeral messaging, particularly how it complicates oversight, archiving, and forensic recovery, and misunderstand the platform's limitations and vulnerabilities, such as unauthorized access through human error. Without comprehensive education about the nuances of secure messaging and proper handling of sensitive information, senior government officials are more likely to inadvertently expose sensitive data, undermining both national security and governmental accountability. Expert cybersecurity recommendations. To effectively address the recurring cybersecurity risks associated with the misuse of personal communication methods, the government must implement mandatory, tailored cybersecurity training programs specifically designed for senior government personnel. Traditional cybersecurity awareness training, often generalized and aimed at entry-level employees, is insufficient to meet the distinct needs of high-ranking officials who regularly handle highly sensitive information. By providing focused, scenario-based training tailored explicitly to senior officials, government agencies can enhance cybersecurity awareness, improve decision-making, and significantly reduce the likelihood of inadvertent misuse of private communication channels. This targeted training must include clear examples of past incidents, emphasizing practical risks and solutions relevant to senior decision-makers. Additionally, federal agencies should invest in developing and deploying standardized, user-friendly, secure communication platforms accessible to all government officials. These systems must feature modern interfaces, intuitive functionality, and robust encryption and cybersecurity safeguards comparable to popular consumer apps. By offering attractive and secure alternatives, the government can remove incentives for officials to rely on personal devices or private communication channels. From my cybersecurity viewpoint, providing convenient and secure official tools is essential to fostering adherence to secure communication protocols and significantly reducing the government's cyber attack surface. Enforcing strict cybersecurity standards, including mandatory multi-factor authentication and robust encryption protocols for all official government communications, is also crucial. Multi-factor authentication dramatically reduces the risk of unauthorized access by ensuring that even if credentials are compromised, attackers cannot easily gain control over communications. Strong standardized encryption protocols across all government-issued communication platforms further minimize vulnerabilities, safeguarding sensitive government data both in transit and at rest. These cybersecurity measures should be non-negotiable across all federal agencies, with clear compliance metrics regularly assessed through audits and independent oversight. Regular audits, oversight mechanisms, and meaningful accountability measures must be established and rigorously enforced to ensure consistent adherence to cybersecurity standards. Agencies should implement periodic audits that specifically target the use of personal communication channels, actively identifying potential vulnerabilities or compliance violations. Non-compliance discovered through these audits should trigger clearly defined, meaningful consequences, demonstrating that cybersecurity compliance is not optional. Establishing robust oversight and accountability will create an organizational culture where secure communication practices are prioritized and systematically reinforced. Finally, a broader cultural shift towards cybersecurity awareness must occur at the highest levels of government. Agency leaders must explicitly and publicly endorse rigorous cybersecurity practices and compliance with official communication policies, setting clear expectations for all government officials. Effective cybersecurity cannot rely solely on policy enforcement or technical solutions. It must be embedded in organizational culture, driven by senior leadership commitment and reinforced through ongoing education and accountability. By creating and sustaining such a cybersecurity-focused culture, the government can proactively mitigate risks and significantly enhance the security and integrity of official communications moving forward. Conclusion: the persistent reliance by United States government officials on personal communication methods for conducting official business clearly reveals systemic cybersecurity vulnerabilities spanning multiple presidential administrations. From Bush-era private email usage and Obama's private server and alias accounts, through Trump's and Biden's reliance on personal email and messaging apps, these practices have consistently undermined governmental cybersecurity and compliance. The current controversy surrounding the Trump administration's use of the Signal app further highlights how deeply embedded this challenge remains. This continuity underscores that the issue is inherently structural rather than partisan or isolated, reflecting systemic weaknesses in policy enforcement, technical capabilities, training, and cybersecurity culture. Addressing this cybersecurity problem effectively requires proactive, holistic solutions rather than reactive, piecemeal responses. Implementing targeted cybersecurity training for senior officials, developing user-friendly yet secure government communications platforms, enforcing rigorous cybersecurity protocols like multi-factor authentication, and consistently auditing compliance are all critical steps toward improvement. Equally important, government leadership must drive a cultural shift, emphasizing cybersecurity as a fundamental priority rather than an afterthought. Only by acknowledging these vulnerabilities as shared challenges, not as politically charged issues, can we realistically strengthen governmental cybersecurity and protect sensitive national security information. As a cybersecurity professional, I firmly believe that secure communication practices must transcend politics and become integral to the government's operational culture. Protecting sensitive government data demands continuous vigilance, strong accountability mechanisms, and clear leadership from the top down. We have repeatedly witnessed the cybersecurity implications of officials circumventing official channels for convenience or expediency. Now is the time for sustained action. By adopting comprehensive, enforceable cybersecurity measures and fostering a robust cybersecurity culture, future administrations can effectively mitigate these long-standing risks, safeguarding both national security and public trust. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Bare Metal Cyber Podcast. If you found this discussion helpful or thought-provoking, make sure to follow and share the show with others who care about cybersecurity and national security. You can read more articles, explore past episodes, and connect with me directly by visiting jason-edwards.me. And remember, good cybersecurity isn't just about technology. It's about culture, leadership, and making smart decisions every day. Stay sharp, stay secure, and I'll catch you in the next one.